The meeting is back in order. It's approximately 7:12. We are reconvening. My apologies to our listening audience. It was severe technical difficulties and our staff. I am proud to report that Mike, Amir, and Dr. Brown Hall have assisted us. Please accept our apologies for any inconvenience it may have caused you. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this back over to, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to go directly to our speakers because they have been waiting. And I want to read a statement to each one of our speakers. At this time, the board welcomes speakers who have signed up to speak at tonight's meeting. Please be reminded that all speakers' remarks must be limited to 3 minutes or less. We ask that speakers be mindful that this is a business meeting, open to the public and televised locally. Attendees and viewers include persons from throughout Western New York, including children. The board asks that speakers conduct themselves professionally and that their comments remain civil and courteous, bearing in mind that they will be heard by people of all ages. This is an opportunity for Buffalo's residents to address the Buffalo Board of Education about issues that serve the public interest and district mission. And the board asks that speakers demonstrate appropriate decorum. Thank you for joining. Our first speaker this evening is India Walton. She's a parent in regards to police in school. India, thank you for your patience. Please proceed.
Thank you for allowing me the space to address your honorable body. My name is India Walton. I am a parent of Buffalo Public School children. But interestingly enough, I'm also a registered nurse, and I've formerly worked in Buffalo Public Schools. And I know that our children reside in the third poorest city in the nation. Many of them, more than half of them, live in conditions of concentrated disadvantage and poverty and are dealing with very complex social, emotional issues and underlying traumas. The reason why I don't believe it is a good use of resources to put police officers in school buildings is because we should be addressing the root causes of the behaviors we are seeing in a trauma-informed way. We have security guards. We have student resource officers who can be called in case of an emergency or the escalation of situations, who are trained, specially trained, to deal with children. The additional officers who respond are not trained, from what I understand, and there's no clear policies, procedures, or rules. Of particular concern to me is one officer who received pay from the Buffalo Public School District, Officer Hassett. Officer Hassett has been barred by the Erie County District Attorney from testifying because he has a history of lying, of falsifying records. He has cost the city of Buffalo $300,000 in lawsuits for his misconduct while on duty. So how is it that we trust a person with this lack of moral character in the building with our children, some of whom are the most vulnerable in our community? I think that the money that is being spent on off-duty officers in school buildings would be best used supporting children, families, and parents so that we can address the underlying trauma, the concentrated poverty, the hunger, the food insecurity, the lack of affordable housing and housing instability, and all of the other issues that are causing some of the behaviors that we're seeing that require social solutions and not policing. And let's end Buffalo Public Schools as the beginning of the school to prison pipeline and fully implement our code of conduct that includes restorative practices and protect our children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Felix Soto, citizen and student, regarding the future of bowling. Mr. Soto, please begin.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Like Ms. Cobbin said, I'm Felix Soto. I am a junior at Burgard High School. I've heard word that bowling was considered not being played this year. I was personally contacted yesterday. However, I have an online petition with over 240 citizens, including bowling coaches and other players from the Buffalo Public Schools that want bowling to stay. I also contacted a few board members. Well, let's be honest here. Once a sport is canceled for a year, it'll be so hard to resume it for the upcoming year. Just saying on some other sports, but however, so that's why I'm here to discuss the future of bowling. I don't think it's right that to give student athletes not an opportunity to play and be a part of a team. I think if you allow basketball and football to play, you should let every other sport resume as well. Student athletes may not play football or basketball, a high risk sport. And bowling, as we all know, it's not really a contact sport. It's far less injuries, and some parents are not comfortable of letting their child play high contact sports. I also heard Section 6 extended their season for bowling, and I know that Buffalo Public Schools opted out of Section 6. I think if bowling can resume, that it'll be too hard to jump back into Section 6 more than halfway through the season. So I was thinking maybe to create our own league with 10 or more teams from the Buffalo City schools. Bowling has helped me open up to fellow students, coaches, and even at a sport meeting because I'd never see myself contacting many board members, starting a petition, and listening to views of others on how they affected them. To cancel bowling, there must be a good reason. Is there a budget problem or a shortage of coaches? When bowling was canceled, was it brought up to parents, schools, coaches, players? And you guys should give a thought to people that love the sport of bowling, especially seniors. They should go off with a high note. Thank you.
Thank you, our future leader, Mr. Felix Soto. I'm very proud that you were able to do your advocacy work. That's very good news. I'm proud of you. Next, we have Liza Schreiber, citizen, removing police from school. Mrs. Schreiber.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure and an honor to speak on behalf of our children and our future. The system of policing is designed by and based on the system of white supremacy. Their tactics and their practices are practices of white supremacy. With that said, we don't need to have the off-duty police officers working in our schools. The security guards and the SROs that respond to the 911 calls are trained in dealing with children. After seeing what happened in Rochester, where a police officer handcuffed and pepper sprayed a 9-year-old girl, the other point is our Black and brown children have to worry about this enough out in the community. They should not have to worry about this in school. 3 resources that I have for research: NPR, the Sentencing Project, and one other. I'll state that increasing police in schools is not increasing safety, but it is having the opposite effect with unintended consequences. I know we were all teenagers. I know it's common for teenagers to get into fights over boys, over girls. So can you imagine? You're 15, you get into a fight over a boy and or a girl. and all of a sudden you're being arrested. You're not being taken to the principal's office, but you're being arrested. So now I'm asking you to imagine being arrested for being a teenager. This goes against everything that we have been working so hard to do with our schools, with the restorative justice. I know teachers in our schools that actually have talking circles in their class, and they are working. I know that many of the off-duty police officers that the city of Buffalo pays to be in 5 schools are also on the list of officers with the most complaints against them. Officer Todd McAllister, one of the police officers involved in the death of Wardell Meach Davis, was at one time working at MST High School. With that, I ask you to think about, what do we want for our children? I thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you for your advocacy. Our next speaker is Christopher McMillan, citizen, former student, and in regards to the future of bowling. Is Mr. McMillan still with us?
Oh, can you hear me?
A little bit louder, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
A little bit better.
I apologize. Thank you guys for having me today. I was actually contacted about a week and a half ago.
Can you talk just a little bit louder, Mr. McMillan? I want everyone to hear what you have to say.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
A little better. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was actually contacted about a week and a half ago in regards to the sport of bowling being dissolved. Not just for this current school year, but for the school years to come. I've been bowling since I was about 3, and I bowled all 4 years at Performing Arts. I graduated in 2014, where I actually won 2 school titles, and I made it to states. I think I've been the last person to make it to states in Buffalo Public Schools for like maybe 5 years. And now, just graduating with my 2nd degree in college, bowling paid for both of my degrees. I've only paid for school books. And bowling in high school helped me catapult to that, including being the only African American on my school team to receive a national title, where my school is actually ranked #1 still. Bowling in high school helps transitioning juniors and seniors into communicating with their coaches, specifically for the girls in NCAA. They can't even contact their coaches until senior year. So if they aren't bowling, they aren't allowed to show the coaches what they have, which means they don't get scholarships or full rides. There's a lot more scholarships for women in bowling just because there are more women in bowling. However, men like myself can still get full rides as well, and I did. So I wanted to reach out and express my thoughts on this. I think it would definitely hurt people that want to go to school, especially in Buffalo. There's like 6 programs for men and women in college to bowling that give scholarships, and that can catapult them to going on tour, like I'm going to be doing in just a couple of years, and competing for Team USA, which I plan to do next year. So I just wanted to express my thoughts. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. I appreciate that. I'm interested in learning more about those scholarships. So we'll have someone reach out. Next would be our next speaker, Mr. Derek Martin. He's a citizen, a former student, and he is concerned about the future of bowling. Mr. Martin, are you still there? We'll come back and see if Mr. Martin will come back on. Okay, next we have Dr. Wendy Mistrada, the parent, and she is going to provide us with the DPC update, District Parent Coordinating Council update.
for President. Pleasure to see everyone and be seen. It's been a challenge, I know, not having a little bit of eye contact for several meetings now. Quick DPCC update. I just want to remind everyone that you're always invited to our monthly meetings. It's the second Tuesday of each month. We met last night, and we started with our parent partners at Community Health Workers, talking about, in honor of Valentine's Day, some self-care. So we talked about what we're doing to take care of ourselves so we can better take care of our families and how we can better support each other. And then we went into some reopening discussion. And Monday night, Dr. Brown Hall asked that we go back to our constituent groups and bring back. So we had some discussions about phase 1 and phase 2. Of course, phase 1, the biggest positive is just having some of our kids in the buildings. My son's a senior, he's back in. It was a pretty smooth transition, and a lot of us were really happy to have that. Some of the challenges, of course, people have a lot of questions about cleanliness. With all we're hearing about it, so parents want to know. Kim Hernandez, who's on the Health and Safety Subcommittee, shared what she could, but there are still questions about, do we have the staff and supplies necessary to keep our schools as clean as they need to be? The last concern is mainly about our special ed kids. The fact that they're not all back, and we don't have OT and PT for all of them in person yet, which leads us into phase 2, what we want the priorities to be. We really felt like the priorities should be middle school, because there's currently not middle school back in. The rest of the special ed, anyone who's not in yet, and our students who have gotten in. What we're hoping is that each school will be given capacity numbers so that they can have discussions, knowing how many seats they have, what kids need to be in most, so that they can be planning, discussing obstacles. For example, transportation is an obstacle, but it's less of an obstacle for our high school kids because they don't need yellow busing. So in buildings where they have room, can they just be given a little more freedom to come up with some plans to bring more kids back more quickly? And then beginning the plan, so the plan's ready for everyone, so as soon as there's a space, we can start bringing more kids back as quickly as possible. Last, I want to share is DPCC also supports the discussion about getting off-duty police officers out of our buildings. We're very concerned about the disproportionality that's affecting over-policing in 5 of our high schools, and the funds. I mean, we always know that there are funding challenges, and we would really like to see that funding be redistributed. Personally, I also would really like to see some money from restorative practices. We know there just hasn't been enough to be able to really invest in that. So I hope you'll consider that and have more discussions with all of us, because we all want to be partners. We're helping the district on that. My time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mastrada. We appreciate your update. Our next speaker is Lucy Velez, citizen, police and schools. Ms. Velez, are you there? Again, I will revisit and see if they have come back on. I understand that, the wait could have impacted them. Next, we have Milo Gresham, citizen, regarding police officers. Mr. Gresham, are you there?
I am.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the members of the board for letting me speak to you tonight. My name is Miles Gresham. I'm an attorney and a policy fellow for the Partnership for the Public Good, and I'm coming to the board as a representative of PPG, as well as hundreds of our community partners, to ask the board to stop the practice of stationing off-duty police officers in public schools. As others have said, this is not a program that affects all of our public schools. There's only 5 of them, where most of the students are children of color. We know that children of color in Buffalo public schools are already more than twice as likely as a white student to be suspended. And this off-duty policing practice is really unnecessary. Again, just to be clear, we are not talking about the school resource officers who are uniformed Buffalo police on duty, who are responsible to the police commissioner for what they do. We're also not talking about the private security guards. We are talking about the off-duty police. There's a roster that we've foiled of over 40 police officers, give or take, who are on this list. And in 2019, the Buffalo Public Schools spent over $200,000 to pay those officers for their off-duty work. We also found that 7 of those on that roster that we foiled were among those who had received the most complaints from the community, including complaints of excessive force. This process further criminalizes our children. I was a public defender when I first found out about this practice. I represented children in front of Judge Hanna before Raise the Age took effect. I never saw a white child come directly from a Buffalo public school into my courtroom. And these kinds of practices, stationing off-duty police, really reinforce that. The Buffalo Public School Board has the power to stop this practice immediately by passing a resolution banning the practice going forward, and we would ask that you consider that. Black children are already criminalized enough, as we've seen in Rochester recently, as we see here. We don't need to reinforce that in our schools. And $200,000 goes a long way towards things like culturally and linguistically responsive initiatives and other programs that could actually help our kids. So we are asking the board to please discontinue this practice, stop criminalizing Black children, and let our kids have a chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miles Gresham. Appreciate your comment. Our next speaker is Dejon Hall, citizen, former student, regarding SROs in school. Is Mr. Hall there? Again, I apologize to Mr. Hall for the delay. He could not wait. Next, we have Kauai Jumel, student, citizen, regards removing police from schools. Is Mr. Jumel there?
I'm a woman.
Hello.
I'm still here. Thank you for having me tonight. Hello?
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Hello, and good evening to everyone. My name is Kauai Jumale, and today I am representing myself, my parents, my refugee and immigrant community. I am a resident of Buffalo, New York since 2004, and I am so against the police being in our Buffalo public schools. There's no need for it. There is definitely no need for it. The police have tactics and trainings that are so unnecessary. Our kids do not need that. There is no need for the school to prison pipeline. Students are not asking to be replaced. Students are asking to be heard, to be noticed, and to be seen. I'm a sister who has brothers in Buffalo Public School and have a little sister who will be attending Buffalo Public School. Just to give a scenario, my little sister is someone that has emotional tantrums. Imagine a little girl who is in need of a teddy bear, a stuffed teddy bear. If that little girl cannot get that stuffed teddy bear, she has emotional tantrums. She starts screaming or just not being herself. She cannot communicate verbally, so therefore it's hard for her to communicate to someone, anyone, like, hey, I need help. I want you to give me this. So I fear my sister goes to school and there are police in these schools, stationed at these schools. What the hell is going to happen? My fear has an older sister. Therefore, the police being stationed in our schools is just causing more trauma upon trauma upon trauma. They don't know what our kids go through on a daily basis. They don't know what's happening at home. They don't know their emotions. But as soon as something goes wrong or they feel like, oh, we need to de-escalate something, they are using tactics that are affecting us more than they can ever imagine, and it is traumatizing. There's no need for it, and I'm so against it. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. That's all I have to say. Please take these policemen out of our schools. Our kids do not need that. We are going through enough already, especially as people of color. Just like as Miles has said, you will not see a white young man in front of these judges, but you will see more likely our younger black men, our younger black sisters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand that Mr. Hall has, Dejan Hall, thank you. Yes,
Let me know when to start.
you can go, young man.
Good evening, members of the school board,
Good evening.
administration, fellow general and citizen students. I'm this evening to speak on the topic of moving off-duty officers from our schools.
I apologize. Excuse me. I'm getting a lot of feedback.
The previous speaker to mute. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good now. Yeah, I come to speak on the topic of getting off-duty Buffalo police officers out of our schools. As a former student of Buffalo Public Schools, having attended Olmsted and then charter school later, I have personal experience with Buffalo police in schools. During my high school years, I was nearly expelled because two students had stolen a video game that was being auctioned off by the school. They implicated me as some sort of mastermind. But what's relevant here is that two uniformed officers of the Buffalo Police Department removed me from class, brought me to a room with no parent present, and began to question me. That sort of interaction for a yet to be fully formed brain and just general youth turned out to be really traumatic for me. I remember what it was like to be grilled by two adults in full uniform with guns on their hip, thinking I must have done something. This would not have happened otherwise. And also wondering just where my mother was. And that moment has never left me. It became the impetus for me later on attending law school, because for me, having to go through that, it became clear that it was wrong and that it shouldn't happen to any other student. And so today, again, I'm here because I don't think that it's right for students to be subjected to that sort of behavior by armed off-duty Buffalo police officers. And I would encourage this board to stop paying those folks to traumatize our children.
Thank you, Mr. Hall, for your comments. I'd like to just go back over to see if any of our other speakers have returned. Is Mr. Derek Martin there? Okay. Or Lucy Velez?
Here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mrs. Velez, thank you.
All righty. I represent a lot of different people, Free the People, Citizen Action, and a host of Latino parents and Latino organizations. My concern is that I have not seen a lot of quantitative studies that says that having police officers in the schools has made such a direct impact. I respect law and order. However, when we deal with children, Black and brown, children from marginalized communities, and I am Latina and Indian, so I know what it is to be called marginalized and people not expect a whole lot from us, except problems. So when police officers are put in schools where there is a large population of minority, refugee, immigrant children, it tends to set up a narrative and a narrative that our children will then inherit, especially when they are traumatized and see the things that go on when there seems to be some kind of crisis in their schools. Oftentimes, a lot of things can be easily, when I went to school, and I'm sure a lot of you folks, when you folks went to school, a lot of things were handled by our teachers, by our elders, and I'm an elder now, and I think that it's important that, you know, children do not change that much, okay? You might want to say, oh, they're more disrespectful. No, they're not. You know, everybody has their level of disrespect, but if you disrespect them, they'll disrespect you. And so my thing is that they have not changed that much, that we as adults, we that do the parenting, we that are the elders, we can make a difference in terms of changing behavior, changing narratives. I think it's really important that we take teachers and adults and train them and bring in people who are not of the law enforcement, but rather people who are skilled in de-escalation techniques. And that goes for all staff, principals, aides, the lunch lady or the lunch person. We're talking about people. Invest the money, or as we would say, divest from the police does not mean get rid of the police per se. It means that we need to take this money, put it in mental health and behavioral health needs. We need to look at the health inconsistencies. We need to look at child and adolescent development and psychiatric health. We need to identify positive behavioral support in the schools and at home. We need to do the conflict resolution. We need restorative justice, which is something that, you know, we need to be practicing. And if we don't know what it is, then we need to look at what it is, how it works in our communities. And we also need an office to oversee. So should there be any questionable behavior on the part of a student towards a teacher, or we have these officers that we hope will not be there, but if they are, we need a separate office to review what happens in terms of that situation that has nothing to do and is not monitored by the actual school board members in the actual school, not the teachers or the principals. It should be an outside group of people, not family members, but community members, other people who know the laws and the policies related to the school board. So there are a lot of things that need to be done and can be done differently. But I think that we need to take that money and invest it. Our police officers should not be expected to do the work of social workers and counselors and those kinds of people. That's putting a lot of responsibility on them. But also, you know, that's a very stressful job. I'm sorry?
Thank you. You
okay.
Certainly exceeded your time, but I appreciate you calling, and I appreciate your input, your advocacy.
Thank
you so much. Dr. Cash, would you be kind enough to provide a response to our speakers, please?
So good evening, colleagues. I want to thank and commend all of the speakers this evening for your patience and for your articulation of issues that are of concern to you. I listened to the speakers and I heard two main groups speaking on two topics, and I want to address those two first. First, on bowling, there were three speakers, and I just want to say that we are not going to, at this time, there's been no plans to cancel bowling. It's been an issue of when we were not in school, we had to let Section 6 know what were our intent around school sports. And I said from the beginning, as long as we were not in school, that we would not be participating in sports. Now that we have resumed school, the leagues that are in play for our students we're trying to pilot those and see if we can do it safely. So certainly we'll be talking with all of our constituents when we get to a point in a new school year to talk about all of our sports, what we have, what is needed, what could we add to our compendium of athletics, so forth and so on. But right now, it's not feasible to jump into any leagues with bowling, for example, or swimming, for example, this year. Your idea about starting a team that's sort of internal, I'd like to hear about that. We don't have any contracts right now with bowling alleys because they shut down during COVID as well across the city. But be assured that there's no intention right now to cancel bowling. And I appreciate your sharing the impact it has had on your life, and that there is interest in the sport here in Buffalo among our students. So thank you. On the second topic, main topic today, policing in our schools. Let me try to say to you very clearly that the model that you identify as policing in our schools, the off-duty officers, I was not aware of that element of our strategy until recently, about a year ago. And certainly from what I heard, that is not the model of school partnership and strategy that we want with our SROs and our Buffalo Police Department. And so I've had conversations about this with the mayor, with the chief of police, Commissioner Lockwood, and we have moved in a different direction. I've moved closer to what's called best practice in the country, where I know what effective partnerships between security teams in schools and the local police department, what they look like. And having those off-duty police officers in our schools over a period of 10 years with some of the backgrounds that you described is completely inappropriate to have in our schools. And so last year, with the beckoning of the board as well, having concerns about these off-duty police officers who were assigned to several of our schools, I said, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. And what we're going to do is reform our safety and security team and our partnership with the Buffalo Police Department. So I'm very pleased, as is the board, to say that we have an extraordinary executive director of safety and security for our schools, Mr. Fred Ragstaff. He is a model for every police department, every school security team in this country. And I've seen a few. And he's all about proactive training, proactive response, prevention and intervention being the emphasis, being child-centered, adolescent-centered, and being patient and understanding and caring and nurturing and yet tough love given to our young people. So under his leadership, 55 school security officers are receiving training on an ongoing basis. That is much the model of what we're talking about and not what you were talking about, because I agree, they've got to go and have gone. We haven't paid those officers since July of 2020, and they will no longer be in our school system, no longer. And if the board wants to write a resolution or develop one, I'll be the first to help write it because we don't tolerate that kind of behavior in our schools, nor that kind of training and treatment. We are not about arrest, transport, fingerprint, and put into the system. We're not about that. We're about the opposite of that, which is restorative practices, trauma-informed care, disproportionality training, and culturally and linguistically responsive teaching and leadership practices. That's what we've done with all of our staff over the last several years. And now we have a great relationship with the Buffalo Police Department. 8 SROs are in our schools. Each has an assignment of 7 schools under the leadership and supervision of Chief Aaron Young and Lieutenant Craig. and they are here with us today. And I can tell you that they also are like Fred Wagstaff in the way that they view our young people, the emphasis on prevention and intervention, lots of support and patience and understanding of what our young people are going through in the community. And so we couldn't have a better safety and security team today than ever. And so that other element, rest assured, colleagues, it is gone. It is gone and it will not return. But we must have a relationship with the Buffalo Police Department because they assist us in so many important ways and that help protect you and keep us safe and follow up on important issues, serious issues that may be occurring in our schools. So thank you for your concerns. Thank you for those comments. We agree with you on those observations, and they are no longer with us. Finally, I'd like to say that Wendy, appreciate your comments, especially the invitation to join your meetings. I really like staff to be at those meetings so that we can address issues that you have right there on the spot. Sometimes I've been told that we are not welcome at the meetings, so it's good to hear that you're inviting us in public, and we will try to have representation at those meetings going forward. Continue to work with us as we continue our reopening process, and we appreciate all of the support that you give to the Buffalo Public Schools. So, President Cotman, those are my comments. I will turn it back over to you.
Okay, and again, thank you to our speakers. We appreciate your advocacy. Know that this is a united board that stands for children first, and that we stand united with you on your concerns. You're not speaking in a void, and we hear you very loud and very clearly. It is our intent to address the needs of our children at all times. Thank you for that. Dr. Cash, I could appreciate if you would maybe, out of the kindness of your heart, for our listeners who did not hear Dr. Cole's presentation, if you would just share some of the points that he shared with us today, it would be kind of you. Again, our apologies for the inconvenience this may have caused, but we felt that it was important to have our chief health specialist speak to our constituents today, and unfortunately that message did not get out as we expected it to. Can you share some things with us, please, Dr. Cash?
Sure, President Cotman, thank you. So colleagues, this afternoon, right at the beginning of our meeting, I asked our medical director, Dr. Dennis Quo, to come and give a brief update on the status of the COVID virus in our community. He has been just an excellent, superb health advisory expert, and we appreciate him greatly. So there were two main points that he was making. One, he shared that on the major metrics of COVID in Erie County and in the city of Buffalo, that the new cases, while that we still are getting new cases, they're much reduced than they were 2 months ago, for example. The positivity rate, the daily positivity rate is 3.6% at this time, and that is as of today, right up to date, and the 7-day positivity rate is at 4.8%, and that's again going down from 7 or 8% 2 months ago. We continue to go down and are now below 5%. The hospitalizations in Erie County and in Buffalo continue to drop. Over just the last month, it's now from 330 hospitalizations to now 288. And the number of people in ICU has continued to drop at the same rate. So they're going down. Not that we don't have it, but it's going down in a very encouraging way. And then just the overall data on what's going on in different zip codes in Buffalo and in the county. While there are still some hot spots, Dr. Quo says that they're not at the level that would alarm him to say we should not be open right now, or that we should consider pulling back at this time. He will continue to guide us and keep me informed. We talk much more regularly over these last several months, and I really appreciate his counsel. So that overall was good news, is what he was telling us, because the last time when he came before the board in January 20th, that was 20 days ago. So many of you in the community may be wondering, well, what about today? What's the news for today? Should we be open by all scientific accounts? And the short answer is yes. The other good news that Dr. Quo shared today was that this whole issue of testing, whether we should test students and staff, whether we should be testing our athletes, those who are beginning to play sports, you know, that debate is, once an executive order is given or counsel is given from Erie County Health Departments where we're not testing anymore, we're just taking temperatures, and all of these important guardrails have been relaxed. It was a concern that he and I both share, that we can't not test our students and our staff. And we've just started to go back to school. Our staff and our families deserve to know what is the status of COVID in our schools, in our community. And the only way to know that is if we test. And so we're going to test at a rate that is much beyond anything required. We're going to be very close to 30% over the next 2 months, so that we can assure that that we're being as safe as we possibly can, or that we need to take action and to pull back and close the schools again. And the only way to do that is to be transparent about testing. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to be our own testing, our own licensed testing entity now. And that's a good news thing, because before we were connected to the Erie County Health Department, and now we have the capacity to do it ourselves. So we are fast tracking that. Dr. Quo and I signed off on the application today, and it should be up and running as our own licensed testing entity as soon as next week. And then we're going to go live and put a dashboard on a daily basis up for the public, so everyone can see just how many tests we are giving to our students and staff each week and in each school, and whether that looks like a green, we're in a good space, we're yellow, we need to be starting to take precaution, or red, we need to begin to think about closing schools and pausing them again for some period of time, whether it be an individual school, a group of schools, or the whole school system. So you will be able, as a community, to track with us what that data looks like in our schools starting this Friday going forward. So that's the essence of what we talked about this at the beginning of the meeting. And then we had to pause for technical difficulties, and we're glad to be with you again at this time. Thank you, President Copman.
Thank you, Dr. Cash. So I'm going to just briefly, under board recognition, go back to that. And I've been asked to talk about our initiatives that we are doing in our district for Black History Month under the Office of the Culturally Linguistic Responsible Initiative.
If you want to do it, that's fine.
No, I want you to do it because this is legacy work, and I thought you had turned it back over to me and wanted me to do it when I saw it over here. So please, Dr. Cash, continue.
No, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just do have that as one of the 3 items that I wanted to bring you up to date on.
Okay, well, go ahead. Continue. I thought you were.
Okay. Well, I finished the part that you asked me about what did Dr. Quo have to say to us tonight. Now I would like to move to the superintendent's update, and there are 3 different items, but I think all of them are significant. So the first point that I want to stress to the board and to the community is that there are three extremely important issues that affect the short and long-term prospects of the district. None are more important than the three that I'm getting ready to say. And then I'm going to report on some of that tonight. So as I've said all along, the first is that we have to keep our focus dead center on the budget and the fiscal solvency of the district. And while that's some encouraging news in recent days, we won't know until the full tale is told what will be the relief given back to localities, counties, cities and towns, states, and then the local school districts that are within the localities until the federal relief packages are finalized and determined and so forth. But there's quite a bit of pandemic-related costs that we are incurring that are driving our structural fiscal deficit deeper into the hole. So we have to stay focused on our budget going forward and in the next several years. This will be a multi-year challenge for the Buffalo Public Schools. The second issue, again, is the way that charter schools are funded here in the state of New York and the way that they are proliferating in the city of Buffalo, practically unchecked, even though in recent years we have shown that we don't need more elementary schools choices because our schools are 75% in good standing now. It's not 25% schools in receivership, 25 schools in receivership like they were 4 or 5 years ago. We brought those schools up. They're wonderful schools for our families if you participate in what is being offered in our schools right now. Very few charters are opening at the high school level. And yet we see that our graduation rates now are at an historic high of 76%. And somehow we're asking those to be asterisks. Why? Why? The kids worked hard. They passed courses that were aligned to the Regents exams and they graduated. And they're going to do it again this year. We didn't put an asterisk by the Buffalo Bills making the playoffs because it was COVID's year and people couldn't play some games or practice some games. Things had to be. We didn't put an asterisk around that. They had a heck of a season. So I don't want to hear this nonsense about an asterisk. You go put an asterisk by your work, not the work of our children who have worked so hard to earn something so important with the support of their staff, their teachers, their principals, their parents, and all of the people who saw those young people come across the stage last year. Not having it, not hearing it. Now, the third item is student achievement. There's nothing more important for us to focus on than student achievement, whether it's virtual or in person. In person or virtual. We'll be toggling a little bit over these next months and into next year. But we have to keep our focus on student achievement. Nothing is more important than that. And while we're looking at that, certainly the equity agenda, I support the board. I'm with the board 100% on that issue. So those are the top three issues. Now, under the report, you already saw some of the safety data that we're talking about. You also see in your folder a description of the kind of training, the kind of staff, the mindset and the philosophy that Fred Wagstaff, as our executive director of safety and security, what the culture, the new culture that he brings to that department is really something to be applauded and to be proud of today. Not yesterday, but today. And of course, as I said, with the new teaming with Chief Young and Lieutenant Craig. First-rate department, we're going to go to best in class. Another piece that you will see in your packet, and that's the memo from Fred that I'm talking about. So take a look at that at your own leisure, and it backs up what we were saying today under speakers. The second major point or item under my update this evening, colleagues, is this letter that is in effect a kickoff for the budget season 2021. And I want you to take a close look at that letter, read it carefully. It is going to go out to all Buffalo Public Schools and the site-based teams tomorrow so that we can begin this process. As I said, unless something changes fairly significantly in regard to relief that comes to states from the federal government and then comes to the schools through the state, we're looking at a $20 million, really a more than $20 million, we're looking at a $50+ million deficit next year, $53 million the following year, and $97 million the following year after that. And so that's why we have to be very, very thoughtful in what we do, what we expend, what we prioritize until we get more relief. And if we get more relief, if we don't get more relief, then this is what we're looking at. And I just want the board to be really clear about that, because while we have a healthy fund balance at this time, it's also fragile because of all of the personnel costs that we have accrued that are part of our budget. And that we added a lot of people during my tenure to the budget, rightfully so, because of equity and to help our struggling schools who were in receivership get out of receivership and are now in good standing. So you have to add additional resources to keep our schools thriving and improving and continuing to get better and better and better. But that was what we pledged as part of the education bargain. We have done a lot of that. We will continue to do it. But we also, on the other side of the equation, have to watch our expenditures and make sure that we're not overspending our budget, as so many districts have done and are doing during COVID. So take a look at that letter. And of course, we'll be talking about it in work sessions going forward. Last but not least, I do have for you a listing of the Black History Month activities that have been designed and developed by the Office of CLRI. And this is the overlay. This is the district-wide activities, not the school by school by school, because many schools are doing things individually at their schools. And I just think it's just tremendous, this work that is going on under the leadership of Dr. Fatima Morrell and her team, and then all of course, the executive team working together to support her office as well in any way that they can. But just look at the substance. Some of you board members said you had already participated in one of the opening events just this past week. You had high praise for the event with the professor from the Caribbean, I believe, and it was excellent, well attended. Hundreds of participants were on as he related historical events to current events happening in our society today. Just a wonderful kickoff to Black History Month. And then you can see in this handout 6 or 7 Saturdays and events, dates from February 5th to February 12th, February 18th, 23rd, and 25th. So again, I want you to participate, inviting you as well as the public at large to join us in these exciting, very rich, very substantive and engaging, important Black History Month activities by Dr. Morrell and her team. And then last but not least, 2 more quick announcements. Urban Education Forum is going to happen before we have our next board meeting. So I certainly wanted to announce that on behalf of Buffalo Public Schools. The well-discussed and highly recognized Nicole Hannah-Jones is going to be here with us this year. And the kind of people that Dr. Morrell is able to get to come here, that alone is an amazing feat, colleagues. And the way she does it, way under what their asking price is, it's some of these people, you know, one day it's amazing what they're asking for, but we're getting it much, much less. And they're doing it because they see what we're doing here in Buffalo. And Nicole Hannah-Jones went from sort of a cost that was beyond our price tag to, I'm going to do it for free. And it's because she recognizes that we're a leader in this work. And she wants to come hear about it as well as share in it. And she's tremendous. And is going to be talking about legacy, life, and liberation on March 16th, Tuesday, from 8:30 to 3:30. Let's all be there. I will be introducing her and making a few opening remarks. And then, colleagues, how great and how wonderful it is that Business First, M&T Bank, and others are going to recognize Dr. Fatima Morrell for her work as a leader in what they call IDEA recognition awards. I for inclusion, D for diversity, E for equity, and A for awareness. Dr. Morrell will be an honoree and a distinguished honoree, one of the first African-American women to get this award on behalf of the Buffalo Public Schools and all of her work. She's going to be honored on March 4th at 3 o'clock. And there's room and space for 20 attendees to come. 20 attendees. And board members, we want to make sure that you have primary seats to it. So if you're interested, just let me know, let Dr. Morrell know, and we'll make sure we reserve seats for you so we can applaud and commend our distinguished, one and only guardian of equity here in Buffalo Public Schools, Dr. Fatima Morrell. Colleagues, it's a big deal. It's a lot of exciting things happening. You hear often or sometimes about the negative, but this is nothing but positive, and it's a good time to be board members and educators of our precious children here in Buffalo. Thank you very much.
I'd like to reiterate to our students and our parents that if you go to our website, bps.org, that you can find all the information that is relative to what we're talking about today. Our Black History Celebration staff has taken the time to video these events. You can go to our webpage, BPS Parent Center, etc. So many people don't understand that this work that has been being done in this district has been going on now for 5 years. And we are doing Dr. Cash and staff and under the leadership of Dr. Cash, but Dr. Fatima Morrell is just doing a fantastic job, and we're proud that she's Buffalo born and raised. And for those who said that Buffalo was not doing inclusionary work, you need to know now that we are. And if you want to learn more or be a part of it, you're welcome to participate. Just go to our website and you will find the information. And I'm enjoying all of these events, and I'm learning a lot as well. So it's always time to learn. With that said, we need to move forward. The hour is upon us. I would like to get a motion, please, to accept the minutes from the previous meetings. I'm looking for, got Terrence and who else? Lou. Lou. All in favor? Any opposed? None. Thank you so much. Typically,
if we could at this time ask the speakers to leave the screen, and they can follow the board meeting on our live stream link on our district website.
Okay, Dr. Darren
Take
Brown
care, Myles.
asked our speakers to leave the screen at this point.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you
you later.
very much
Well,
for participating. You can certainly go to our website and follow the live stream. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you. So moving forward, we want to try to move things forward in a expedient way. I am not saying that we do not want to do the committee reports. What I am saying is I am going to time each committee report. And if by chance you go over 5 minutes, I am going to bring it to your attention, because I think in fairness to the work that has to be done, and we have staff here that has to break down this building, clean it up, and staff has to come in and clean up behind us. So we need to be mindful that we should put our elevator speeches on, and that we should talk as briefly as possible. And if by chance you go over 5 minutes, I am going to bring it to your attention, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone in that process, but we have to move forward. There are a lot of people that are impacted by us being in this district at this point, in this building at this point. And we have staff that has to go drive quite a way to get home. So you need to be mindful. And then the staff has to come in and clean this building because we've been here. So with that, I'm going to move forward with our committee reports, or any reports that any board member would like to report out. Do we have anybody that's interested in reporting out at this point?
Sharon, I'll go first.
Thank you, Dr. Kathy Evan Brown.
You gave 5 minutes. I only need 30 seconds. No, at least 1 minute. So
Generous 5 minutes, trust me.
our student achievement report on February the 10th was a robust conversation on the reopening of schools that occurred on February the 1st. It really reviewed the first 3 days of the reopening. The district invited pre-K through 2nd grade, special needs children, and high school students on a flexible basis. So approximately 7,400 students, that may be accurate or not. But that first week, 7,400 kids or so were invited to return in person. At the end of the 3 days, 85% returned and attended. And there were a 95% rate of educators that returned as well. We received a number of positive letters and comments from parents who are excited about seeing smiles again on their children's faces because of the in-person schooling. Chief Ann Botticelli talked about concurrent instruction, how educators are doing both at the same time, in-person and hybrid, what that looked like. And then IT Chief Myra Burton talked about the graphing calculators that the district purchased for our students. And we got really good information on what that looked like. And graphing calculators are very expensive. I remember those back in the day. They were $100 at that time. I don't know what they cost now. But nevertheless, that was the gist of our academic achievement session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kathy Evans Brown. Our next committee report out. Who would like to go next? Mr. Hurd?
Yes, I'll go next because some of it reflects off of the reopening of schools that Dr. Kathy Evans Brown just mentioned. We went to the social emotional wellness section of the reopening of the schools. We had Dr. Chandra Williams present on morning circles, the social emotional tools that's being used now, attendance. For the first 2 days at a glance, we talk about the mental health supports. And, you know, some of the mental health supports that we're utilizing is the Say Yes to Education help. We have a crisis team here in the city of Buffalo that works with our kids, you know, that's has experienced some type of trauma. Also, we have a project aware grant that's being used over at Burgard schools for the needy kids there. We also talked about the code of conduct and the review of it. The board recently passed the new code of conduct, and there's going to be a parent-friendly version that's going out to all the parents. About 18 pages that has been condensed, and there's going to be online training with the code of conduct because due to the COVID, there have been some changes. You know, the way we do things, the way we reimagine education, and the way the code of conduct should be followed. So the district worked very hard with the code of conduct. The board worked very hard, and the superintendent. So everybody, please, you can go to the website and take a look at the code of conduct and how it follows now, how it reads. We believe that it's more friendly. It's actually we're actually giving great rapport, you know, for the changes that were made. The last thing that Dr. Tony Willis talked about was visuals for the families. One thing we had was our care room. COVID-19. It's not called an isolation room. It's called a care room. And there we have a number of test kits that's available. And the district is also collecting the positive and negative rates that's being used for the testing that we're doing. And the testing is going to exceed 30%. You know that 30% was set by the state. And Dr. Cash, the superintendent, also said that we want to exceed that level, that we want to make sure that we have a safe environment for our kids, and the social emotional wellness is what's most important as we address the issues in our district. We also learned that our kids are predominantly safe, and it was adults that was transmitting disease within the community. So we're looking in the future about possibly bringing more kids into the classroom, along to if the level stay down below 5% in Western New York, and the testing that will be done through grades 3 through 12. And I believe he admits that not to address kindergartens, first or second graders, because they likely won't carry the disease or have the disease or show effects from the disease. But it's just the tidiness of it and the sincerity, you know, the testing of a child at that age. We also had a report by Dr. Ellen Collins. She talks about our dashboards. Dr. Cash spoke about a little earlier about dashboards and how it's being used to disseminate information to the parents and to the teachers across the district about what's going on within our schools. She talked about letters that's going out to the parents and logs. We also reflected on how information is going to be disseminated between the parents, the staff, and the boards. Each child's getting temperature checks as they walk into the school. And we spoke about the HEPA and how that's being utilized, you know, within our school district. So please stay tuned to that. And quickly, we had a second part to education support, and that was the Buffalo Public School Athletic Department giving a presentation about winter sports. And at this point, we discussed about having winter sports for basketball, girls and boys basketball, which is being utilized and practices are going on now within our facilities inside the schools. So pay attention, stay tuned to see, you know, what happens next with that. And we're looking for more and great report back from our athletic department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Exactly 5 minutes. Next,
Right.
Mr. Petrucci, would you like to move forward?
Thank you, President Cotman. I'll try to be brief. I had the opportunity to attend the district kickoff at School Sedita with fellow board members, President Cotman, myself, Mr. Hurd, and Ms. McCosey, and a variety of staff, teachers, and others. It was a wonderful event. After that, myself and board member at large, Terrence Hurd, went to School 27, Hillary Park, to see Miss Jean Wolf. Was recognized by the South District Common Council member for all of her efforts to support her students during the pandemic. So that was a very nice ceremony. I was glad to be a part of it. Had the opportunity to tour South Park High School with Dr. Cash and a variety of other individuals as well to show off one of our premier buildings in the district. Always a great time when I get over to South Park. We have a meeting coming up with Comptroller Barbara Miller-Williams. I will be forwarding the 2 new dates to the members of the Revenue Ad Hoc Committee. This will be a continuation of our previous meeting, which was, I thought, was very productive. We were able to address a lot of issues, but they wanted to make sure that all of the members of the Ad Hoc Committee could be there. So we have some dates that will be, or some times and dates that will be accommodating for everyone. One more thing that I wanted to, with respect to the actual committees, we ran out of time last time. So with respect to what the district's doing for MWBE outreach and the various policies will be put on the March Executive Affairs Committee, just so everyone's aware. But I also wanted to recognize President Kottman. She was recognized as one of, or accepted, and as one of 16 board members from across the nation to participate in the Council of Great City Schools board chairs cohort. So it's a very nice honor. I want to make sure Sharon was being modest tonight. I want to make sure that she got recognition. So kudos to you, President Kottman.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I appreciate that. Next, we have Paulette Woods.
As Dr. Cash has pointed out in his memo, we have to be very cognizant of the challenges of this year and next year's budget. We are very appreciative of the state aid that we received under the CARES Act and the federal aid, but it still leaves us with a structural deficit. And we are hoping that additional aid from President Biden will help us to mitigate the need for significant adjustments. I do want to commend Dr. Fatima Morrell on the presentation from Dr. Williams. That was an excellent presentation. The other thing is I did go tour some of my schools with a checklist from the union to make sure that everything that was on there was in place. And I put it on my Facebook page to make sure that our parents know that we are in these schools, we've toured these schools, and we know that we're committed to the safety of our children. We're doing the social distancing and everything we can do to make sure you know you can come in here in safety. That's my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Woods. Are there any other board members who would like to share? I did not hear anything, an update on the ad hoc committees. Are there any updates that we need in regards to the ad hoc committees at this point? Not at this point? Okay, thank you.
Not at this point, Mr. Doug Kottman.
All right, thank you. Okay, I am not, at this point, we will be talking under item number 27 about the Council of Great City Schools, excuse me, item 26 about the Council of Great City Schools Award later on. Moving forward, I need a motion to accept the consent agenda. Paulette Woods and Larry Scott, that's the 2 hands I saw first. Okay. I have a question on item 11C, virtual BPO and Buffalo Academy of Visual Performing Arts side by side by Mr. Lou Petrucci. Mr. Petrucci?
I'm sorry, Sharon. It was, I believe I had it as 11D. It was about the Power BI and the dashboards that would enable the district to develop.
My bad. I'm sorry. Yes, it is 11D.
Thank you. I was just wondering, we heard some earlier comments from my fellow board member, Mr. Scott, about one type of dashboard that I know the district is looking at. I was just wondering what this Power BI will enable the district to do in terms of the dashboarding, the presentation of material for our teachers, parents, and district employees.
Mr. Brown, is there anyone here that can answer this?
Our chief OSA officer, Officer Shared Accountability, Ebony Bullock. She's on camera right now.
Thank you.
Good evening, colleagues. Power BI, that contract is going to allow us to hire a temporary consultant to help us build out two really important components. Number one, we are trying to build out an HR staff page that will allow us to track staff demographics as well as staff attendance. It also is going to help us with building out a student support page specifically around parent involvement. We're looking to build a page that will host our Ed Climate Survey and our youth risk behavior survey. With the respect to the parent involvement, that's going to help us track two things. Number one, it's going to help us track and see if there's some correlations between student performance and parent involvement. And it's going to help us help Dr. Reynolds answer the question of where our parents are located, specifically as it relates to where we're hosting events. If we see folks coming from 14215 all the way over to 14211 for events, then we know that we probably need to host more events in 14215. So it's going to help us track those kind of data points. And we just need some help for just a little bit. And that's what that particular item is going to help us do.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bullock.
Thank you, Mrs. Bullock. Next, there is a question by Mr. Hurd in regards to item 16A, which is our CSE CPSE report dealing with our special ed children.
Yes, thank you, President Belton-Cottman. As I read through this report, it's a wonderful report that's working with our CSE department and working with students of needs. I believe that after reading through it, I was going to ask Dr. Cash or the administration if it's possible that we can add our unified sports program to this report. So that could be something that could be identified. And our unified sports program is we're looking to adopt it into the upcoming school year. And our ad hoc committee members and board have been working very hard to work with this along with our modified sports program. So the unified sports is basically a sports program is really geared towards special education students, and it will help with their social, emotional values with occupational therapy. It will help them, work with others, teach them how to teach these students how to work with others that may be having some type of impairment and disabilities, and also give them a good recourse of feeling good about themselves and working through life as a team. And I just believe that this is a perfect fit for the unified sports piece. If that can happen, or we can somehow add that in, please let's discuss it as a board. Or
So the request, if I understand it right, is that you're asking that the Office of Special Ed put something in regards to unified sports on this report?
yes.
Or are you talking about forming unified sports in the district?
We're working hard to form the unified sports program along with the modified sports program, and if it can help with the learning abilities of our students of needs, I believe that there'll be a good fit. It's something I know that needs to be looked into as for future reference, and I believe that that it will be great for the district to recognize it, and possibly we can move forward with this introduction.
Okay. So are you asking the district to
Looking
use
to the
this
unified.
report to qualify the needs of the children
Yes.
for the unified sports program?
Yes. My question is, if the unified sports program could be added to this, or in the future looked at a way for help for our needy students that's with disabilities and impairments, that it might be a great avenue to include this in with it. Yes.
Might I recommend? I'm sorry, Mr. Hurd and Dr. Cash. Might I recommend that be either a separate report? I know the special ed department is able to come during one of the work session committees to even talk about how that might mix. This report, this special education report that is in the board packet, is specific to the services that are offered in the school, because we use this for state reporting, and this is what the board approves. I wouldn't want to mix that with the modified sports program, which really would take on a whole separate presentation, and we can see how that would work for the special ed department. But I wouldn't want to get that involved in this report that the board has to approve.
This report is, from reading it, it's from January 21st to February 2021. I understand that this is a report delivered from the past, but I'm suggesting that for future references that we take a dive into it with a unified sports program to see if it would be a good fit, as evaluating our students and getting them involved in more sports activities and learning how to work together, play together, and achievements. So that's my ask.
Okay, and you know what? And we can have a conversation with Dr. Cash after, and we appreciate that ask, Mr. Hurd, and we'll take that under consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Next up would be item 17E. Mrs. Woods, MLP Plumbing and Mechanical, School number 66, North Park Academy School, new addition to cafeteria and classroom.
Yes, one of the things the board has been very committed to, in addition to the equity amendment, they passed a MBE-WBE amendment, and we committed to a goal of 25% MBE contracts, so that all taxpayers and students and parents could participate in the contracts and hiring and the benefits that they spend their tax dollars on. I raised the question about this particular contract because there are several contracts under this item that are for $1.2 million, $1.4 million, $1.5 million. And I looked at this particular one, which is for $1.4 million, and I looked at the addendum that each contractor has signed. It says in the affirmative action statement that they would commit to a minority workforce goal of 25% and a female workforce goal of 5%. Then I looked at their submission as far as their workforce, because we asked them to submit how many minorities are on their staff. And this particular company only had one minority person on their staff, one journeyman. But the thing that was significant to me is that on the form, they commit that they're going to need to hire almost 40 more people to do this project. And they indicate under the new hirees that all 40 of them will be non-minorities. I thought that was a contradiction in the commitment to MBE-WBE that was signed in their addendum. So I wanted to question how are we moving forward on our MBE contracts, because most of them, they indicate and report that we have not and cannot find minority firms, commit to any dollars to the MBE process. We haven't had trainings on how to do business. So for me, looking at this particular contract, I wanted to ask, is there a list of minority plumbing, construction firms? Because I don't see that in the mail out. And I wanted to specifically have someone address how this firm can commit to our MBE, WBE goals in one sheet, and in the other sheet say, I'm gonna hire, but they will not be any minorities. So that was my question.
I know Jeff Pritchard was going to have Juan on to address that. I believe Juan Perez is on to address that question. Board member Woods.
Yes, Ms. Woods. First and foremost, in dealing with the MBE WB requirements, when we actually performed our pre-bid conference, we actually had over 50 contractors who are interested in this project. And most of them, I would say, are actually going to play a role as subcontractors to these primes. This prime, for instance, MLP Plumbing that you mentioned, actually is the lowest and most responsible bidder for this project. And typically what they would do is they would subcontract some of their work out to these subcontractors. Now, dealing with the actual hiring additional work, they actually report back to their union hall and pull from the hall. For that, I cannot say how much or quantity of how many minority folks are in the hall at the moment, but we are working with the union hall to actually pull from there to actually work on our projects.
So you do see the documents submitted in the package, and you do clearly see that they're indicating that they have no intention of hiring any minorities. So is that just factual? They can't make an effort. There isn't anyone. What are we doing to expand our outreach? Expand, as you said, subcontractors. What are we doing for MBE, WBE for actually implementing the policy that the board passed?
Well, the only thing I could answer to is that we are trying to be positive and trying to allow opportunities for MBE and WBE firms to actually participate. And what we're actually trying to do is to enforce this policy by having these prime contractors subcontract this work. From my past experience, some of these MBE and WBE firms do not have the bonding capacity to actually bond the project to act as a prime until they actually gain experience and doing these types of projects with us.
And Ms. Woods, just to further that, you will be pleased to know, I know we couldn't discuss it at the last work session because that ran long, but Rick Banton, our Director of Purchase, does have 2 workshops set up in March doing business with the Buffalo Public Schools to target more interest from MWBE companies and corporations that wish to do business with us. So we do have those workshops coming up in March, and that's something that the Purchase Department will be doing regularly.
And also, Ms. Woods, so you are aware, we did have 2 contractors who actually applied for a prime role as an MBE and a WBE. If you look at the GC package, it was Rodriguez Construction, who actually is the first time they actually bid on one of our Buffalo Schools projects. And also, if you look at the electrical contract, I believe it's Weidman Electric who submitted an electrical bid contract, and they are a WBE.
The board, when we passed the policy to implement it, we did request actual factual data, dollars of contracts. We reported at least biannually, if not more frequently. Is there any possibility that that may be forthcoming?
Okay, but Ms. Woods, that question is not for Juan. If you remember also at the last work session, Dr. Cash asked that if you wait till March, we will have more data for you at the work session. So if you can just be patient a little while and wait till the March work sessions, we will have some of that information for you.
As I said, it's only been 3 years. I will be patient.
Thank you. We appreciate that, Ms. Woods. Thank you very much.
You know what? I have to sentiment. When I'm looking at this, you know, unfortunately, thank you, Paulette, for pointing out certain things with this. This is consistent with what is going on in this district. Okay, for this particular person not to even recognize that he's even going to hire any minorities is really a slap in the face to our policies or whatever. And I understand the need to wait until March, but by that time, the lion's share has been already distributed. And so for me, I'm very concerned for a lot of reasons for this particular project, because we were told in the past that there was no money to do school renovations. Okay, and so as a result, we were turning away school buildings. Under Joe Giuliana, there was things that were just not cost efficient or whatever. But what was brought to my attention about this particular building is that there are a lot of, prior to putting the furniture in, that there is a warehouse full of furniture and no one went and shopped over there for anything. Everything was purchased new. And so I guess when I go into a school where the desks are too small for the kids that are sitting there, and then I see the opportunity for us to save money as far as using our resources over at our Bailey Center. Then we come back and we talk about the MBWEB policy not being honored. It's almost like this board is not being taken seriously about the things that they want to move forward. I personally want an explanation why this guy, if this is how it is reading from what board member Wood said, and certainly she has enough experience in budgeting and finance to ask the question and get the answers. I want an explanation why no additional minorities, brown and Black people are going to work in this project. Okay, I'm concerned about that. And I think this board should be concerned about anyone that would put in writing that they're not going to hire a certain group of people. So somebody needs to get on the phone and find out who can answer this question, or we pull it tonight so we can get an answer, because I don't think it's fair if what Paulette is saying, board member Woods is saying, is correct, that we just ignore this.
And if she could, if board member Woods can show us where she got that information, because I'm looking here at their affirmative action statement that they did sign.
Oh, they all sign it, but they don't hire anybody. That's
Well,
the
I think
on a regular basis that we see.
to Juan's point, settle down. To Juan's point, he said that there will be a good number of subcontractors on this. So
Where does that say that in the contract?
no, what I said was that Juan said that there will be a good number of subcontractors on these because these are big dollar amounts.
Absolutely, they're big dollars. But I'm asking the question, where does it say that he is committed, other than this statement, that he's going to try to hire certain groups of people? It doesn't say that, right? And nothing.
I did, President Common, I did hand respectfully the document from the bid, which is purports to be implementing our MBE WBE policy directive. The two forms are the commitment to the MBE 25% and WBE women's 5%, and that is signed, and I printed that out. And then the next document is the workforce, which shows there's only one minority in the workforce. And then on that same form, it says the number of people that will be hired for the project, and it has the categories under which the person is going to hire these people. And the only question I had, like given the form, it clearly says 41 people are going to be hired, and it clearly says they're all going to be non-minority. I just thought that was an amazing contradiction. So I've given the form to our chief, Dr. Hall Brown, because I know he'll take a look at it.
Colleagues, can you hear me?
It certainly is there. She certainly is right with this new hires projected.
Colleagues, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Okay. How much is this item worth overall?
1.44
Million?
million.
Are there multiple items adding up to 1.4? Or are there multiple 1.4 million
that
items?
particular contract, that particular item. There are four other ones that are additionally 1.5, 1.2, etc.
Do you have the
I'm
same
not
concern?
questioning them. I'm asking specifically about this one.
Okay. Do you have the same concerns about the other or mainly about this one, Ms. Woods? I know, I'm just trying to get at the root of it.
I have concerns with the other ones because, again, the MBE, WBE guidelines are clearly labeled 0. They did not give, we did not meet those guidelines. But when I looked at the staffing for the other companies, they at least had some minority staff working for them. And they did not indicate that they would not be hiring any minorities. So this
Okay.
one just really stuck out.
Okay, and Juan, what are these for? Because I have produce. My numbers aren't adding or aligning to, this looks like a building project of some kind. What is this for, Juan?
Yes, this is an addition to School 66, which is a classroom
All right.
and the main office.
Okay, so this is the item that the original contractor pulled out. Is that correct? And then we went to the second item or the second bidder. Is that correct?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, did the first bidder have indication of minority hiring and fill out the form and then also back it up with intent? Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember, and then they did fill out for intent to meet the minority requirements as well.
But did they say how and that
No,
they actually?
this is pretty typical in the sense of that when they actually bid on a project, prime contractors would actually be awarded the project and they will start buying out their contracts with subcontracts.
Okay, so colleagues, I think Board Member Woods is correct that if that language is like that, this item needs to be pulled and the contractor needs to explain to us how they can make a commitment or a pledge in writing to honor our MWBE policy, and then in the same document contradict that pledge by stating outright that they won't be doing that. I think that I agree and concur that we can't give contract after contract to companies that seem to either be pejorative or dismissive of the seriousness of which we take our MWBE policy. You have to make the effort. You have to go above and beyond. You can do business as usual and sign off on that pledge. And you have to show us just exactly how you intend to do it. Now, if at the end of a very rigorous effort, that you can show that you weren't able to do it, that's one thing. But to state up front at the outset that we're not gonna do it, I'm not gonna accept that. And I agree with the board that that is too much money going out. And we're not gonna have BPS just be a cash cow for these companies, as has been the history over a long period of time, with no real intent to do business differently. And so whenever I find it or I hear about it, then I'm going to do something about it. So I want to thank Board Member Woods for pointing it out. And at this time, I would recommend pulling the item and making the company explain to us the contradiction between the pledge and the latter statement.
Good catch. And Dr. Cash, I'd like to also point out that Fry Electric does a lot of work with our district. And over the years, they only have 3 African Americans that are currently working with them out of a staff of 158 permanent employees. You know, we need to have a conversation with these people.
Yes,
Black people, Hispanic people, Asian American people, they need to feed their families too. And there needs to be some sort of commitment from these people that they're going to help bring these people and move this group of population to the next level. Fry does a lot of business with us, and not to have more than 3 journeymen of African American. You've got Hispanic, you've got 2, etc. So, you know, we need to have a conversation. Someone needs to have a conversation with these people moving forward that it's just not acceptable. It's just not. You're just not going to continue to get billions and over 20 years or whatever, millions from us on a regular basis and not respect the policies of this board. We are responsible for our community, and we need to do better with this.
Yeah, we agree. So I think Rick Fanton has laid out a timeline. I will get involved in some of those conversations as I have in the past. And now is the time to begin to change the culture. It has to start somewhere, and let this be another start point for trying to make this a reality.
Yeah, technically, most of these, all of them, really needs to be pulled. You've got you've got D.V. Brown and Associates. Also, very limited.
Well, we've got an opening there. I understand. I understand. Juan Perez is someone who I don't know well, but I trust his integrity and his energy about this kind of work. And so I will be having a conversation with him so that we can begin to provide stronger, more intentional oversight around this issue.
Well, you know, I'm concerned because, you know, I believe Mr. Perez is a good man. He's still here with us at 9 o'clock at night doing his job. I appreciate that. However, there's a culture that exists that we need to look into.
We're trying to root it out. We get it. We get it. All right.
So that item is going to be pulled. Item number 17E.
Pull it.
For further explain. And maybe Rich Fanton can start having a conversation with these people who are doing a lot of business with this district as to why they don't feel that they should lift other people up to the next level. Certainly, this one particular guy doesn't have a problem with charter schools. I know that. Okay, next. Let's see. We have also 17K, Mr. Hurd. And we have Mr. Scott with a comment and question for the same item. Mr. Hurd, would you like to go first, and then Mr. Scott?
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes, I'm looking at the AdPro bid. 1 second, please. Mr. Scott, you go ahead and go first.
All right. I will be quick. My question has been answered. I just wanted to make a comment for the public on a couple things, because some of these items get lost in our consent agenda. But I want to make it clear that this Board of Education has approved many contracts for PPE, sanitizing products, chemicals, as well as ventilation for all of our school buildings. We've spent millions of dollars on it. I'm concerned about the amount of money that needs to be spent on it, but obviously it is something that is required at this time. And I also just want to kind of throw in some of the latest studies and research are strongly indicating that transmission of COVID-19 is very infrequent on surfaces, and it is primarily a transmitted through the air. So masking, ventilation, and distancing are the priorities that we really need to focus on. But I understand as I asked this question in email that we need to follow CDC and Department of Health and state ed mandates and continue to do all the sanitizing and cleaning that is required. But I just wanted to make it known that we are investing a lot in PPE, sanitizing equipment, as well as ventilation. There's been several board meetings the past many months where we have approved multiple contracts for all of this. And so if it's not in buildings, I would be quite surprised if these products and PPE are not available to our schools. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Scott. Mr. Hurd.
Okay, thank you. I got a little confused because the line item actually got moved to K, and earlier it was actually J. You're talking about AdPro Sports, Buffalo protective equipment. I would just like to explain that today they're asking for $35,175, to purchase personal protective equipment, student athlete coaches, security officers, teachers, etc. We just back in September 2020, we just approved up to $500,000 for it seemed like to be the same thing. So I'd like to know what's the difference between the contract that we approved back in September 2020 and this one here today that they're asking for another $35,000.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Hurd. I did send the attachments from those previous meetings with the answer earlier today, but at the October 21st, 2020 board meeting, the board approved the AdPro Sports board rec for youth disposable masks and nursing gowns, and I attached that board rec. And at the September 16th, 2020 board meeting, the board accepted the donation from Pagula Sports and Entertainment for the purchase of the PPE through AdPro Sports, and I attached that donation letter. But this board rec is to actually move forward with the purchasing of that PPE with the donation from Pagula Sports through AdPro Sports. And that was this is item 17K in reflection of the September 16, 2020 board meeting.
So the item on September 20th, I believe I had it as 18S.
It was a September 16th board meeting where we accepted the donation from Pagula Sports, and that donation is being used to pay for these items through AdPro Sports.
Okay, thank you.
You're muted, Mrs. Cotman.
Sorry. Board Member Makuzi has a question or concern.
Thank you. I have a clarifying question. So can you just clarify if these funds were, they were approved and it's all in order, but we're just now paying them, do we not have this PPE for athletics when we're trying to move ahead with sports? Are we just now putting this process into place, or is this like a reimbursement type thing? We already have the PPE and we're just dealing with the funding now.
Right. So we have PPE. So this will be additional PPE for the sports program.
Okay. So we do have, I know I asked this previously, but there's still this, buzzing and concern that I'm getting from folks that we don't have all the PPE for athletics. I do trust that the district has it. I'm clarifying for the public, but PPE for athletics is in place. and
Yes.
we're not utilizing PPE from our, from other avenues, correct?
We have ample PPE, yes,
For athletics in particular.
yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm just clarifying for the folks who are contacting me.
Thank you. So, Board Member Scott, you have comments and questions on similar things. Was your questions answered, or do you want me to go
Yeah,
through each?
everything I'm done. It was
Okay.
all in a single comment.
Okay, thank you. So I also have our final, let me say before I say that, no, it's not our final. Our next one is from Mr. Hurd. It is item number 18, K multiple vendors produce for 2021-22 school year.
I'm sorry, it was 18U. The line items got moved, I guess sometime today.
Oh, okay. So what was your question? Which one were you interested in?
An 18U.
18U?
Yes, it's the Rydell football helmet purchase. I just want to ask, what's the difference once again here? In October 2021, we purchased helmets. I believe it was from the schools of Burgard, Hutchbeck, McKinley, Bennett, and South Park for the total of $19,915. And now we got another line item for asking for another $28,909. So I'm just trying to figure out where's the spending going. Was the helmets purchased back in October 21st? That was approved by the board, or is something else going on which I'm not understanding?
I think the issue, colleagues, if I might, I believe the coaches got together and wanted a higher quality helmet, protective helmet, more technologically advanced helmet for the student athletes. The one back in October, I believe, it went to the low bid, and it wasn't the one that the coaches wanted. So this one, which has already been processed and is in being ordered, is the best helmet available for our high school athletes. I believe that's the explanation.
I'm trying to understand. We purchased $20,000 worth of helmets 4 months ago, but they're not the top class helmets. So we're moving to.
I don't know. I don't know if we purchased them or not.
The board approved it, and it was for purchase on behalf of athletics. That's what it says.
I know, but athletics was paused at that time for football.
Can we check and see what the helmets actually purchased? I mean, it's 4 months ago.
Which item are you referring to in October?
18U.
October 21st.
18U.
No, the October one, October meeting.
October 21st, 21B.
21B?
Yes.
Right, I thought that was the one you're referring to. So when I referenced that item, when I answered the question earlier today, if you look at that item carefully, Mr. Hurd, you will see that there was not a purchase there. That item was the standardization of the helmets that would be used going forward. And they reference Rydell Speed Series, and the title of the agenda item is standardized football helmets. So a purchase was not done. That board item was to standardize the helmets that would be used by the district. And so now the helmet purchase is going in as item 18U through this board.
It just seemed kind of confusing when we have a line item attached to this document stating when it was purchased and what school it's going to, what was purchased for. And then it has the value of the $19,915 that was added. And we also have, it looks to be a sales order, number 441743639, that states they were purchased.
I believe you're looking at the, so what you're looking at, Mr. Hurd, is the cost analysis. It is not a purchase inventory. And when you're looking at the individual schools, it talks about what each school would need, and that's how they did the cost analysis. But I assure you, if you look back, or if anyone wants to look back at the October 21st, 2020 board meeting, and for 21B, item 21B, you will see that there is not a cost on there, and that this is a standardization resolution. So what I can do is I can, yeah, we can work with athletics, and I can go through it further with you at another time if you'd like.
Let's do that, please.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So, gentlemen, Mr. Petrucci and Mr. Hurd, you have several questions about the board policy. We are going to be discussing these policies at our next committee meeting. If it is okay with you, that we can, maybe you can table your questions until that point, unless there's something that has to be brought out tonight.
No, President Cobbman, I'm fine with that. I just had a question on 18K, if that's possible.
Okay, I don't have you down there for that. Okay, no problem.
My question for 18K, I was just wondering if someone could quickly touch upon how we source our local produce and our outreach to MWBE farmers of color. Is there someone that can talk to that, Darren? I know it's getting late.
Hear me?
Bridget.
Yes, Bridget is here. Yes, thank you.
Good evening. I will be very quick. We're working really hard over the last 3 years to really increase our capacity to engage with local producers, protein and produce. And so we've worked with Cornell University, and we've had meetings every year, and we've increased language in the RFPs to engage with more producers of color. So we do have our protein bid. I think half of it went to a woman-owned business, and we only were able to get 2 urban growers included in the produce piece. We've met with them. Farmers are just really busy people, and they're still trying to pull everything together. So we had to put out a piece of the produce bid separately, and so we had our minority woman-owned business bid on that one. So that'll be coming next time. But so basically, it's in the RFP. It's really just getting those point systems in line and talking with them and engaging with the people that we know and in the community. So the next step is to go after another USDA grant to really have time and money to work with producers of color and women-owned, and find out what their challenges are, see how we can fix them, and we have Cornell University helping us with that. And then growing that, I'm sorry, it's a little late. I'm a little lost for words here, but we're trying to then take that and put it into culturally relevant recipes that we'll be able to introduce into our schools. So we're definitely we just got to keep at it. So you know, we're really happy that the produce has increased the population of minority growers. We know that there's some more coming in because we're here and we're waiting for them to get on board. And then the protein, obviously, I think half of that went to a woman-owned business for the processing and the beef. So the meatballs and the beef crumbles will be coming from a New York grower who is a woman.
All right. Thank you very much, Bridget. Greatly appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night.
You as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Bridget O'Brien Woods. So if there are no other additional questions on this consent agenda, our minds are settled. Mr. Kuzman, can you poll the board, please? We can't hear you, Mr. Kuzman.
now. How do you vote with 17E being pulled on the consent agenda, Dr. Kathy Gibbons-Brown?
No exceptions.
Mr. Hurd?
No exceptions.
Ms. J? I heard a no exceptions, just to be clear. Ms. McCosey?
Exceptions.
Mr. Petrucci? No exceptions. Dr. Rivera?
Exceptions.
Mr. Scott?
Exceptions.
Woods? President Belkacem? You're muted.
I abstain from item 9D3. Other than that, no exceptions.
Okay, consent agenda passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we have a little bit more work to do before we can wrap this meeting up. We are at the point where we need to pay tribute to our deceased members of our extended family. Once we do that, we will go into executive session. And when we come out, there will be some unfinished business items that we will discuss this week. Okay, so Mr. Petrucci, would you do the honors, please?
Thank you very much, President Cobney. Can we please rise? Bereavements for the February 10th meeting of 2021. January 20th, John Jake Swalla, brother of Michael Swalla, principal of School 19. January 21st, James E. Carney, a retired teacher of 30 years in the Buffalo Public Schools, father of Molly Eldridge, a social studies teacher at Lafayette High School. January 22nd, Edwin Vasquez, husband of Caridad Vasquez, a retired special education teacher aide, uncle of Carmen Hopkins, administrative assistant with the CTE department. And last, also on January 22nd, Donald A. Ogilvy, former interim superintendent for the Buffalo Public Schools. May we please have a moment of silence to honor their passing. Thank you. Thank you very much, board members.
Thank you, Vice President Petrucci. May I have a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of receiving legal advice? I saw Mr. Petrucci's hand and Kathy's, Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown. Thank you. Executive session. It's 10:32 p.m. The board went into executive session and no actions were taken. I have a motion. I'd like to present before the board. I need it move forward. Whereas the September 18, 2019 board. Put your mic, take your mic. Now start all over. Great. You muted? Thank you. Whereas at the September 18th, 2019 Board of Education meeting, the board via item 17B of the consent agenda awarded an energy performance contract to Johnson Controls, Inc., subject to a final binding contract being negotiated between the district and Johnson Controls. And whereas upon becoming aware of several material and non-waivable deficiencies with the procurement process for the energy performance contract awarded to Johnson Controls, the district exercised its right not to execute a contract with Johnson Controls, and therefore be it resolved that the board rescinds its approval of the award contained in 17D of the consent agenda from the September the 18th, 2019 Board of Education meeting. May I have a motion, please? I see Paulette Woods and Jennifer McCousie's hands up. Are there any questions or concerns? Would you like to talk about it? If not, Mr. Kuzman, can you poll the board, please? Okay, is this okay? All in favor, please raise your hand. Are there any opposed? It is approved unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. With that said,
I'm sorry, President Cotman, I don't believe we heard from Hope J. Her video still off. I don't know if it was proven unanimously or not.
I had asked if Hope J, Mr. Hope, heard before I started.
Apologize.
And I got a response that is why we move forward.
Okay, I was just want to make sure. They said approved unanimously, and I wasn't quite sure. Just checking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. Hope J was not present, Mr. Kuzman, to vote on this item. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. All right, under unfinished business, is there anything that the board would like to talk about before we adjourn?
Yes, ma'am, President Cotman, Reverend Cotman. We wanted to talk about something that was discussed around the board about a couple of different issues with the sports department, and this is part of the report from the sports athletic ad hoc committee. One thing that was discussed is that our intentions next year is to be in total alignment with the Section 6 as far as the sports, and it come to us speaking as the athletic sports committee and reaching out to the board and talking to them about the issues that this district is facing. And we're asking that the superintendent to draft a letter to the Section 6 for the 2021 school year, the new school year, 2021, to let them know that we're going to fully participate in the following sports. The reason why we did this is because the superintendent expressed his concerns about being in alignment with the Section 6 athletic department for the Buffalo Public Schools expressed their concerns about being in alignment with the Section 6, and we don't want for any instance Section 6 to schedule its games, athletic games within the Section 6 without including the Buffalo Public Schools. So we just want to make sure that that they are properly informed, that we have all the intentions on moving forward in the new school year and with full alignment with the Section 6 in the sports of basketball boys, basketball girls, bowling, cheerleading, ice hockey boys, ice hockey girls, indoor track, swimming boys, swimming girls, unified bowling, cross country, field hockey, football, soccer boys and soccer girls, swimming girls, tennis girls, volleyball boys, volleyball girls, golf boys and golf girls, lacrosse boys and lacrosse girls, softball, tennis boys, track and field, and unified basketball. Any other unified sports that may also be added upcoming year. Do we have any questions from the board?
So I guess that we need to be clear with what you're saying here. You're saying, well, my understanding is that currently in our basketball leagues, our children are not allowed to play with other school districts, that they have to play themselves. Is that what you're talking about, or is there something more to this?
With the basketball, our JV basketball is not aligned with the Section 6. Our JV basketball plays within the district of Buffalo Public Schools. And if they were aligned with the Section 6, they would play in outer district schools. So our suburban schools, they would be in the exact same league with them with our junior varsity basketball program. That's
Okay.
the way it's currently been set up isn't in alignment with Section 6 and a couple other sports that was listed also.
Okay, so you're asking in this request that for the superintendent to send a letter to Section 6, asking them to allow us to fully participate and be in alignment with them, if I'm hearing you right, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
This is for equality, equity within our district, and to be in alignment with our suburban districts, so our children have the right to participate in the exact same sports and qualify for the exact same state tournaments as the rest of the children in Western New York.
For the coming school year, he said.
For the coming school year.
21, 22, right? So I guess I want to go on record to say that I have a concern about the amount of money that we're spending with Section 6 and our children being excluded from participating fully within that that section. I think that the record would probably show that Buffalo Public Schools is paying the largest amount of money of any school district and has been denied the opportunity to, our children have been denied many opportunities under Section 6. And I'm very concerned about some of the things that have happened and some of the things that are happening. So I think there's a major need to overview or oversee what's going on with Section 6 and our children. And if it's not true, let's prove it's not true. But what I'm being told from people within the community is that this is a pattern of Section 6. And with us paying over $80,000 a year and our children not allowed to play anyone but themselves until championship time, you are limiting our children from being able to be Division I candidates, etc. So I want to fully look at Section 6. I'm totally unhappy with how our children are being treated in that. I really am. So Dr. Cash, do you think this is something that you can work with or appreciate the understanding of it? Your mic is off, Doc.
Yeah, I just think I've got to get clear on what specific requests regarding Section 6 you're talking about. I've tried to get more representation onto committees and presence with Section 6. But if we're talking about equity, we just have to be specific on where we are concerned so we can address those concerns. I always want to know if our children are being treated fairly and equitably. And if that's not the case, then I've got to know that, and I will take aggressive action on it. Now, as far as Mr. Hurd's request, I don't see that as a problem. However, I think it's premature to talk about what we should say we're going to be involved in next year before next year comes. It's like this year. This year, we were out of school for most of the first half of the year. And there's some mounting indication that we could be in another zigzag year next year. So I don't want to prematurely say, please put us on record as being signed up for all those sports before next year comes. We have to we're still in a pandemic. The pandemic's not over. I don't know when it'll be over. And we take it step at a time right now, step at a time. Just started back in school. And that's why I said, okay, where are we with Section 6? Who's participating? What season are we in? And I wanted to try to give the only sport that I knew was on our docket was basketball. And I said, all right, let's see if we can mount the program on a last minute's notice like this, give our kids an equal chance to play. So there are ongoing issues that you have, certainly I want to hear about it, and continue to work on.
Okay, so we have a hand raised, Board Member Jen Marcus.
Jennifer, you're on mute.
Button. There we go. So I just want to state for the record publicly that we need to have a conversation as a district around what's going on with Section 6. I don't know if anyone else is receiving any text messages, but there's a communication gap between our district and Section 6. And the letter is something that would be important to show that we would, it would show that we're moving forward with this, but there's a disconnect. So I just found this out, Mr. Hurd, Mr. Petrucci, folks that are on the athletic committee, that we really need to sit down and discuss where the district is at and the communication between Section 6 and the district. I'm literally just passing messages right now that I just received. So we'll get it handled, like Dr. Cash said, but I want to address what I've been hearing from multiple people in the last 5 minutes, that, we just have a disconnect between our district and Section 6, and it can all be ironed out with some conversations. And my piece with Dr. Cash that I was going to discuss in this unfinished business around bowling and swimming, we're going to discuss in a meeting. I've been assured by Dr. Cash we're going to get to the bottom of the concerns from the district, from our speakers, and what's going on. So, let's look forward to having this discussion and ironing out some of this, because there's a clear communication gap that we just need to make sure we bridge, and we need to resource our athletic department to be able to have those conversations and get on the right page. So I'm just relaying information I just found out now.
Thank you. Mr. Hurd, Board Member Hurd.
This was the purpose of this letter is to inform the Section 6 that we will be eliminated with them in the upcoming school year. The relationship, I don't know if you can hear me or not. The relationship that we have with the Section 6, that's something to be ironed out between our athletic department, administrative staff members, Dr. Cash, and the Section 6 himself. What we're doing right now is asking for a letter to be written so that the Section 6 will be aware that in the upcoming school year, 2021-2020 school year, 2022 school year, that we're working to be aligned with every sport that was stated, and that they can prepare their schedules to include the Buffalo Public Schools, so that we can have equality within our district and within Western New York. Our kids can have the ample opportunity to play in the exact same sports and qualify for the exact same championships, state finals, and state championships as the other kids in Western New York, and also that that they can have a chance to receive a college degree, possibly a Division I, Division II, or Division III college scholarship for their participation in the sports, just like every other child in Western New York.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I just want to state that I'm not denying the letter. I think the letter would be, that solid piece from the district, but we have to do our part to make sure that the communication gap is bridged. I believe in the letter. It's just a reassurance piece from our district, but we need to meet around some of the things that I'm hearing.
Well, could you state the things that you're hearing? Because the board was ready to move forward on this.
Well, I don't know if, it's late in the night. I think that we can talk about that information. I don't know if anything is to be benefited by hearsay. I think we need to make sure that before we put anything out on the out there in the atmosphere, that is documented and is accurate. Okay, I do not want to get into a situation where we are saying things that are not true until they're verified. I'm sincere about that. And I think we would be making a big mistake to do anything short of that. I also see Board Member Scott's hand up.
Yeah, you actually, President Cotman addressed what I was going to say, that I'm unclear as to what Board Member Hurd is requesting from the board, if he was making a motion for us to get behind some sort of letter. But I agree with how you just characterized it, that I think we need to do more homework here and make sure that any statement that is prepared is based on facts and not hearsay.
So I'd like to say for the record that my major concern is that our children are given the same opportunity that children outside of the city of Buffalo are given. And in a recent meeting, staff said that there were 6 suburban school districts that got together with Section 6 and made some decisions as to what was going to happen with the sports program. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that Dr. Cash did add extra people to participate with Section 6. Where I think the shortfall is that there's not a proper way of communicating back what has occurred in the meeting. So I don't know if we need to give these people who are attending these meetings on behalf of the district a form that they need to complete and return, but for staff to be told or say to us in a committee meeting that they did not know what was going, or no one came back and told them that these changes had occurred or these things were going on, is upsetting to me, because the purpose for having additional people sitting on these committees or subcommittees is to make sure that the information gets back to Dr. Cash and his staff. And that did not happen this past summer, and there still appears to be a problem with people being transparent as far as providing information back from these sessions. So Mr. Hurd, I want to try to wrap this up. What else would you like to say, sir, so we can decide what we're going to do moving forward?
Well, on this, I would like to know what is so important that it will stop equity with our kids in our district. What's the hold up to keep equity from happening, for our kids? Our kids been going through this exact same scenarios for decades now, and not able to compete. So what's going on tonight, on this night, that's going to stop equity, that's going to stop our kids from being able to participate and compete against other kids in the exact same class size? I need to know that.
You're asking, what is it? Do you understand this question, Jennifer?
If there's some new important messages came up in the text message that's going to stop equity for the kids in our district, I'd like to know what it is.
I'm clear on one thing. As chair of as chair of this board, we are going to monitor what we put out on the airways, and we're going to make sure anything we put out there is correct. Okay, we're not getting into a situation where we are giving out misinformation to the public. Okay, so what I suggest you do is at your next ad hoc committee, address this issue. But I don't feel tonight is the place to address it. We cannot afford to put out misinformation to our public. We cannot, and I'm not gonna have it. We're gonna be accurate and we're gonna be correct when we put our information out about anything that we're doing at this board or this district. And this is not the time to move it forward. Does anyone else have a problem with me recommending that? Yes, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, President Cotman. A lot of the alignment has to do from just the way the district operated in the past. In the past, we had city championships. Our city championships didn't align with the section championships because you played for the Harvard Cup. I'll use that as the most obvious one. What's happened though is that oftentimes our leagues aren't as robust, we don't have as many, and we want to participate at the sectional level. Well, in order to do that, we have to align our sports to align with the sports that are the seasons in which the sports occur under Section 6. Because oftentimes the Buffalo Public Schools and Section 6, the sports weren't in alignment. So this is a matter for us to come and align our sports so we can put the Buffalo Public Schools in full alignment with Section 6 to give our kids the optional or the opportunity to play at both the sectional and the state level. So that's a big part, is providing that. But this is kind of mopping up what we had done historically for a number of years and bringing all of our sports, again, into this alignment with Section 6. So it's going to take some additional time and effort. We're going to have to go sport by sport. We're going to have to move some sports from one season to another. And it's going to be a change. It's going to be a big change. It's not about increasing the number of sports, but it may be very often it's going to be about changing the season. The second part of this also, though, is that is to make sure that the second half of this, though, is to second half is that we have to let section know to give them enough time, because the schedules for fall sports are made in the spring because there's a long lead time. So it's something that's kind of topical, that if we want to have some of our children participate in a Section 6 fall sport where they don't now, we would have to let them know, not tonight, but relatively soon, because the fall schedules are decided in the late spring. So it's something we have to work on. We have to do the alignment. We have to notify Section 6 if we're going to have these fall sports and put them that are going to be in line with Section 6. It's something we have to do relatively soon, because now is the time when we would do it for the fall sports. So it is a undertaking. To your point, I don't want to give out bad information, but we have to go by sport, make sure they're aligned, let them know. It's not about creating additional sports. It's about putting those sports in alignment and giving our children those additional opportunities to play at both the sectional and state level.
Thank you, Mr. Petrucci. Does any of the board members have a concern about me and making a decision not to provide information that may not be correct or that should be double checked before we put it out there?
I believe you're 100% right in saying that. This is why I wanted to say Dr. Cash has already said that he would meet with us in order to be able to bring any clarity, meet with the athletic department so that we would have more, concise information moving forward. And I believe this letter is reassurance. I'm not denying the letter, but we have to have our ducks in a row before we start putting statements out. So that's point blank what I was trying to go to, so we didn't waste any more time on it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Dr. Cash, the will of the board is that we check into fine tuning and work with putting together our team so that they're in alignment with Section 6. So if we have a team that's not in alignment with Section 6, that we can take a look at that. I believe that's what the board is asking. Is that not right? And so Dr. Cash says,
Okay. Are you still addressed other issues?
so Dr. Cash, are you clear with what we're trying to do here a little bit at this point, without digging straight into it and seeing exactly where we're not aligned with them at?
I think we need a meeting first. I'm willing to meet with your next ad hoc committee. I don't understand all of this. This is a change. Some of the things coaches have said they prefer to stay, for example, in the Yale Cup, which is an internal competition with basketball because it's actually more competitive. I've heard a lot of things, so I want to sit down, hear what all this is, and then weigh in on my thoughts about it.
Okay.
I don't quite understand all really where you're coming from. So let's meet first things first. Try to get on the same page, and then we'll go from there.
All right. So at this point, we're not going to do an action at this point, or I think what I would recommend is that once we pull it together, that a formal resolution from the board is presented that involves the letter to Section 6 and making sure that we specifically are aligned with what's going on with Section 6. In addition to that, I'd like to also look at any other inequities or practices that we may be doing or are part of that we can fix. Is that okay for now at this point? Is the board in agreement with that? Shake your heads. Because we want to be correct. The most important thing is to be changing the subject, I'd just like to share with you that there is a campaign that is currently happening in regards to the National Day of Hijab. It was February the 1st. Our district didn't, our girls, our people who wear the wraps did not get an opportunity to participate. So from the efforts of Adwa and Nasir, we were able to put together a flyer. And for the month of February, for the remainder of the month to almost the end of the month, young ladies will be able to put their hijabs on and take pictures and download them into on our website. It also covers women that are who are non-Islamic, but who wear turbans. And I'm going to get my hair wrapped up in a turban or hijab, and I'm going to post a picture, and I'm going to support our young ladies, because this board did a resolution years ago that put this in place. And so it's being sponsored by my initiative, but in conjunction with the board, because the resolution is active to this day as far as supporting young women who wear hairdresses, or headdresses, I should say, and which they've been wearing them since the beginning of the time. So I just wanted you guys to know that that's going to be out there. You'll be getting a flyer on that. And I think that's all. Oh, the only other thing, Dr. Cash, I wanted to talk about was I would prefer that we get an update on Duville, our relationship with them. When we last heard about Duville, there were some major concerns from this board in regards to our children, and we have not been updated. Meanwhile, we have staff that is on record supporting additional programs for them. I would like to see in a future meeting an update on Middle Early College, as well as Duville. What did our children do academically last year? What type of supports did they have, and et cetera, so that we can know that the money that we're spending for college courses are properly being spent in this environment, and our children are receiving the support that they need on the campus. That's what my concerns are for our Middle Early College students and our Duville students. So, you know, that can go under student achievement, Dr. Kathy Evan Browns, but I think it's time for us to get an update on Duville. I really do. Yes, Paulette Woods.
Madam Chair, I just need a little bit of a clarification on the issue that you were speaking about for sports. Is your meeting going to address the numerous calls that I've received about swimming and bowling? That's what seems to be blowing up my messages from the constituents. That swimming is a non-contact sport, bowling. That's what the people addressed on the speakers list. What did you say to address that? That's what I missed.
Okay, so my understanding from Dr. Cash is that the possibility to move forward with bowling is a very probable possibility, considering if we decide to do our own league. As far as swimming is concerned, I don't have a decision on that. But I do know that we can put together, and the request of the board, a temporary league for our bowlers. And I'm not sure how the swim would work. Do you have any idea on how that works, Jennifer?
That's part of what we want to, meet about, so that we're 100% in,
When are you talking about meeting?
Well, we'll, very soon, in the next few days, we want to definitely meet. Dr. Cash is, very willing to make sure we bring clarity to all of this and be more inclusive with, the bowling and swimming, and make sure we have all the dates correct and our ducks in a row. And if we come up against anything that really prohibits us as a district to do this, it better be a really great reason, because we are in interest of equity for all of our students. So it'll definitely be addressed. We are in the belief of equity for all of our students. And, whatever miscommunication there might be around that, we're going to meet to make sure that this is all handled. And I totally trust in the fact that we're going to get to the bottom of a lot of these issues and provide the answers that are needed for the questions that are being asked.
Okay.
It just takes communication. That's all we got to do, people, and we're going to do it.
Well, I'm working next week. I don't know if anyone else is, but I will be working next week on Buffalo Board of Ed. Yes, Mr. Hurd.
I'm not quite sure how many meetings do we need. The first time we was addressed with this issue was August 19th.
Here you are. Muted?
I'm not muted.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I'm not sure how many times we got to meet about these issues, especially the bowling issue. The first time this was introduced to us was August 19th of 2020. And then at the time, the board had a consensus statement saying that we wanted bowling included. And that was the same time introduced with the indoor track. We had, between August, we had to have at least 6-7 meetings that was surrounding the bowling and swim teams. And I don't know how many more meetings that we would need to formulate a plan for this prior, and also reached out to the board about and was supposed to come to some conclusions today.
You're 100% correct.
August 19th. I'm not sure the understanding of keep meeting on the exact same thing over and over again. We're not coming to any resolution.
Let's be real here, okay? We've been in COVID. We've been shut down. And I'm hearing you talk to me like I'm supposed to figure out something all of a sudden, and we've been back in school for a week and a half. That's been my focus. Getting us back in school, figuring out if we can do it safely enough, and that's all. That's all I've been focused on. So I said, let's have a meeting, figure out all these issues, whether we can do anything this year with bowling and swimming. What are the issues? What are the costs? Don't want to put any costs. Nobody put any personnel. Nobody told me anything about that. It's just what you want to do. We want to do this. We want to do that. We want to do that. And I told you what the 3 most important things that we should be focusing on are. This is not one of them. So I'm simply saying to you, what do you want me to do tonight?
Calm down, Dr. Cash.
Well, you coming at me. You coming at me.
Calm down. Okay, I
want to be clear.
Okay, well, calm down. Thank you. So, what do you have?
I said, we're speaking on behalf of our stakeholders and the things that they're asking us. Secondly, we just started in-person learning, but school been going on all year long. And the athletic department, I felt that same thing I said the last board meeting was that we should have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C to address these issues. We have a budget for it already that's been in place, and I don't see why, if it's something that that's a non-contact sport, that we should have too many issues about. It's something that we should be able to decide reasonably, and put a plan together, help put a plan together that can help rectify this situation. Nobody's jumping down anybody's throat, but we just listening to our stakeholders and the complaints and the hundreds of text messages and emails and phone calls that we receive about how to address it and what could be a possible way that we can move forward.
So what I hear is
I'm willing to have that meeting to talk about that. I don't know what all these text messages are. I haven't seen one of them.
Okay, no problem. So we're going to organize a meeting. Do we need? Do you want an ad hoc committee or you want a formal board meeting? Which one?
I want to sit down and try to understand what it all is. That's all.
Okay.
That's all.
So in fairness to the superintendent and staff, so that we can make sure that we get our questions answered, I think we should put together through the athletic ad hoc a list of questions and concerns that you want to have addressed so that staff can address these concerns. Meanwhile, that means that board members are going to have to do some homework and make sure that their requests are adequate. Okay, sometimes people say things, and we found out not too long ago, Jennifer and I, that something that someone said was not accurate. So very concerned about putting out information that's not accurate. When is your next meeting scheduled, Mr. Hurd? Is it Tuesday?
Tuesday the 16th.
Is that good enough?
It's all right for me, colleagues, but I got to make sure the staff is available because next week we're off.
Okay, so you need to make sure, and
I think we should just sit down and talk. I don't mind it. I'll come in. I'm going to be here next week, so I'll sit with Jennifer. I'll sit with Terrence and Lou, and if you're around, Sharon, I just need to understand. I'm hoping one of my people can be around so that they can follow up on any issues. But you know, just
we'll get to the bottom of it, and we'll make sure that we do it right, and we're going to do what's best for children. Are all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm glad then.
Yes.
If there's no other business that this board needs to discuss, I'd like to end this board meeting. May I have a motion, please? Paulette Woods and Larry Scott. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, be safe, everyone. Good night.
And God bless